Thanks for coming. That is some welcome.
It's so nice. So nice. It's nice to be admired.
Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Congratulations on publishing another book. What number book is this for you?
This is my 4th book.
This is your 4th book. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable. When you first started writing, did you ever expect that you would do a children's book?
No. Certainly not about 2 dogs that and that I would be in it. No. So no, it's a kind of it's just one of these things, you know. Just shit happens, you know.
That's actually the tagline for this children's book. How did what made you want to write a children's book? How did it start?
Well, what happened? I didn't really want to. It wasn't it wasn't on my bucket list or anything. It just kind of what happened was so these Honey and Leon they're both dead now. Spoiler alert, they died. But I know.
But not in the book.
Not in the book.
Like it's okay.
Actually, I'm going to do.
It's not an old Yeller children's book. We're fine.
It's a happy ending. But we're going to do a thing later with actual kids. I'm going to read, and I'm kind of dreading when they ask me where's Honey and Leon, because I have to say they died. They're both dead, as you will die one day too.
What's dead, Mr. Cumming?
Yeah. But so Honey and Leon were. So Honey was my dog, and Leon was Grant, my husband. He's my husband, the one who illustrated it. And then we got together, and so the dogs were, since they were 4, for 10 years, and they died when they're 14, they were always together. So we would travel a lot, and you know, we would miss the dogs. And I remember one time we were in Kuala Lumpur. This is the first time we sort of made up this idea that they were following us around the world, because we're in Kuala Lumpur, and I had to do this thing at this concert about the tsunami. There was a thing to sort of encourage people to come back to invest in the area. And they had this big concert, and the Fugees reformed, and the Backstreet Boys were reforming and starting a world tour. And so we were in this hotel pool, and there was the Backstreet Boys, and 2 of NSYNC were in the pool, right? And I said it was like boy band soup. And I just remember sitting watching all these former boy band members in the swimming pool in Malaysia. And
they act like boy band members? Is it all? Are they just like?
No, not in the pool. Oh, okay. No, but they do that kind of, that kind of thing when they see you in the elevator.
They're just so filled with life. They're just very happy.
Very animated. Yeah. And it was so exciting because at the actual concert, because we'd seen them and had hung out a little bit when we were watching the concert. I remember when one of the Backstreet Boys kind of waved at me from the stage. I felt like a teenage girl. I was just like, oh my God! Anyway, because I'm getting off point. So anyway, we're sitting there and the boy band thing was happening, and I was sort of laughing. And I remember saying, "Oh, I really miss Honey and Leon." And Grant said, "Oh, they're here." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he went, "Over there, see behind that palm tree, that's Honey with the floppy hat on, and she's got glasses, and she's been looking at us. And Leon's got a little bowler hat, and he's eating the chips." And so we started this thing that the dogs were in disguise and hiding behind things and following us and making sure we didn't get into any trouble. So this is what this book is about, is that because I also realized that, dogs, when you come home and they're happy to see you, it's mostly because they're relieved that you're okay, because they haven't been able to protect you when you were away, and so now they can actually do their job, and that's why they're happy. So I thought of this idea that because we travel so much, Honey and Leon decide to follow us and stay in disguise and protect us. So that's how it all happened.
There's that wonderful image in the book as well, that drawing of when they're, you and Grant are getting in the car and leaving the dogs are in the window, sort of looking out, and you can see them in the window, which I think every dog owner knows that feeling when you're leaving the house, even if you're just going to work, let alone going on a long trip. The dogs sort of sit at the window and look at you, and you imagine that they're really sad.
I know you do, but actually, I think they probably are, actually, because they know they're not going to be able to look after you. But we've got two dogs now called Lala and Jerry, and Lala does this. We've actually started to spy on her, like when we lock the door and pretend to go down the steps, and we sneak back up and look in the window. And she does this thing where she as soon as she be like this, and the door closes, and she'll zoom away to do that, and then she goes to Jerry's bowl to check that he hasn't left any food in, and then kind of has this little circuit around the lounge to see if there's any scraps anywhere. It's really fascinating. Like, she's such a sweetheart, and then you realise she's like a scavenging whore.
Now, one of the things about this as a children's book is that the dogs have 2 dads, which is, I don't know if that's necessarily a new thing for children's books, that, like in the past years, or has that been a developing thing that we're seeing more and more in children's books? It's wonderful. I
don't know, actually. I don't know. It's interesting because, we wrote this a while ago, and when we wrote it and we're doing it, the idea that it was just 2 dads, it was just our story. We're just doing this thing, Obviously, I get it. It might be a sort of an eyebrow raise in certain quarters. But now, coming out now in Trump's America, and the way that, people of any vague difference are having their rights taken away and being threatened, I feel it's much more portentous and much more a political act than, oh my gosh. So you mentioned Trump, yeah.
They're listening in.
That's him banging his head against the wall. But it's much more of a sort of...
down, just...
it's much more of a political act than we ever would have imagined or intended. But I'm just really glad. I think it's great. I hope it really makes me happy to think that some kids are going to be exposed to the notion of a same-sex couple.
Exposed or feel represented?
And both, yeah, that's right, yeah. But I hope not just represented, because I hope that would mean that they would have, two dads or two mums, and so I sort of think, that when you do things where there's you're going to be telling some people something that they don't know about or they might have been a bit scared about, that it's actually really much better to not speak to the choir. Obviously, you want the choir there to back you up, but it's actually much more important to speak to people who've never had. Because it's funny. The other day I was thinking, someone said that someone was homophobic, and I was like, oh, no, they're not. And the person went, oh no, they love gay people, they just are afraid of them. And actually, that's what, phobia, when anything else has got a phobic, if you're like arachnophobic, it means you're terrified of spiders. You probably quite like spiders if you got to know them, but you're just scared of them. And I think the idea that, if you're just scared of something, that's different from actually hating something. And so in a way, homophobia, I think, is kind of the wrong word. It should be kind of just, I don't know, like, what would you call it? Bigot. Sorry, I don't know. But
often hate comes from a fear. Like, hate comes from fear of what you don't know.
Absolutely. And I think, the fear of the unknown. I mean, it goes fear or ignorance, fear, and I do think that's
those two together, you got
it's Trump's America, ladies and gentlemen. Seriously, I do believe that it's the biggest reason why we have Donald Trump. And I don't mean this necessarily as a criticism. I just mean it as positing a statement, is due to the lack of education and the lack of value we put on education in this country, because so many people voted for him and made ill-educated choices. They were, either kind of misled or were more predisposed to propaganda because they hadn't analysed a situation and because they hadn't had an education to do that. And I feel that if you have a culture that does not value education, does not give people access to education, which is what happens so much here, it's a really for such a rich and powerful country that it has a really, really poor record of education, both in numbers and in quality, then you're going to get a country that is run by a mad person.
Well, you're going to get a country run by someone who is inexperienced, and to many people who don't understand what exactly the government does and how many things it's involved in and how important our government actually is, they're going to be very comfortable with the idea of someone who's never done it before, giving it a shot.
This kind of movement towards anti-intellectual, any expert has to be disbelieved and banished and derided, and that is such a dangerous. It's such a dangerous journey. We are on this journey. Anyone who is an expert, anyone who has studied, anyone who has education is seen as. The media is seen as the enemy. Our teachers are not far down the list of people he's going to deride next.
But it's quite intentional to sort of paint them as enemies, because there is a vested financial interest in making sure that these things that are against the facts and sort of benefit the few rather than the many.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's not in it's not in any kind of dictatorship's interests for people to be educated, because when they are educated, they will think, oops, what the hell's going on here? And they'll do something about it. And also that they're going to be much more concerned with, it's like they don't want people to get more affluent. It keeps people in their place to be not educated. And I just feel that there's so many things have caused us to get to where we are, but I think the bottom line, it's this lack of, not just the lack of education in terms of people's ability and to access it, because it's so expensive, and we live in a country where there isn't universal education, but just the fact we don't value it. All of us, educated people, don't value education enough because we don't think that everyone should have it.
We either take it for granted or we don't value it.
Yeah, it's like a commodity. You know, it's terrible.
Can I pay you a compliment right now? This is going to be
Go
fairly
on.
annoying, but you're sitting here promoting ostensibly a children's book, and what is a children's book? And most people, whether they're promoting even a political movie, would not come on and be willing to really talk like this about the administration, even in a time right now where we should all be talking about it as much as possible and getting it out there. They would be afraid that this would affect the sales of this book or the sales of their movie. What keeps you unafraid of that?
I just, you know, I think I'm Scottish, and I think we just speak out about things. I think we're just genetically wired to be like that, and to whenever there's injustice or inequality, it's something that it's just what we do. You know, I think I really do believe that, and coincidentally, or not necessarily coincidentally, everyone has access to education there, and everyone has access to free healthcare. So we're a healthy, educated country, and I think that's probably why I'm like this. And the reason I'm in this seat is because I was able to go to drama school and train to be an actor, and I started out in subsidised theatre, and you know I am a product of socialism.
Safety nets.
Safety nets, yes, that's a good way to put it. And so I feel like I'm speaking out because that's where I come from, and also I feel I don't really want people to buy my book if they don't agree with if they vote for Trump. Do you know what I mean? I sort of think, well, I do. That's not true, but I feel like I don't. I'll amend that. I don't want people to buy my book who vote for Trump without knowing how I feel about Trump. Yeah, that's what it is.
You don't want people to go into it and be surprised by your political leanings, or
no.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love the idea that people who voted for Trump will be reading a book to their kids that's got two dads, two men who are in a same-sex relationship as the sort of main protagonists who are human in it. That really pleases me a great deal, and that gives me hope. But I hope they also know that I would think they're fucking idiots.
Alan, have you ever had a conversation with a Trump supporter?
Oh, yes.
How'd it go?
Well, it's never going to go well. You know what I mean? I think that...
And I will get off of this topic. I apologize. I don't mean to drag you
quite soon. You know what I mean? I think it's... I have. And there's people I know, quite close to me who voted for him and who are still... And I get it. The thing about politics in this country is it's just a sort of a competition. It's just like an either or. You know what I mean? It's like two teams, and America loves a competition. And so it's a very unnuanced kind of argument to have. You either... it's like that, what Bush said about you're either with us or you're against us. And that's how people think in this country. And there's no other democracy in the world that has gone on for this length of time with only two parties. It's ridiculous. Everyone, like in Scotland, there's, and in Britain in general, there's a what do you call it, a coalition. And there's many, many parties you can vote for. And this, again, is... Oh, my God. This is another reason that is also in the establishment's interest to not create more political parties or allow more political parties to exist, because, of course, it just becomes either or. And if your team won, you think, hooray, I can relax for 4 years. And if your team lost, you think, oh, there's nothing I can do for 4 years. And that is terrible. And I just wish, one of the things I hope that the Tea Party would do, I hope that Donald Trump does it, it breaks the Republican Party into two different parties. And I hope that Bernie Sanders would have done that with the Democratic Party as well. They're obviously it's such a huge party with such a wide range of beliefs, such a wide scale of beliefs. It needs to break up, and we need to have a more nuanced political system, and then people will be more politically engaged. Like last night, I was in my bar. I have this bar that opened this week, Club Cumming in East Village. Thank you. And
what's it called? Club Cumming?
Club Cumming.
In the East Village?
In East Village on 5th Street between A and B. And
are you going to be bartending there at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Last night I sang, a little bit of DJ'd.
Awesome.
And I pulled people's shirts off. But last night, it was the local elections yesterday, and I announced that this person who I'd had a fundraiser for, Carolina Rivera, in our district, had won. And some people were like, hooray, and other people were like, I went, the fact that you don't know what that means is so disappointing, because it means you didn't vote, you didn't pay attention, you weren't aware of what is actually a very, very important election. And with the midterms coming up, it's so important that people get out there and become more politically active, because that's the only way we're going to get to stop Trump. And with that, I will stop. with Trump.
Give him a round of applause, everybody. And with that, I will allow you to stop as well, and I'll move on. One of the things that we talked about in the green room briefly is you have directed a couple movies.
Yes.
And how difficult it is to direct movies. Your first film, you co-directed with the amazing Jennifer Jason Leigh. What was it like going from co-directing to directing alone? I
missed her. Yeah, I really missed her. I mean, I actually think that the film that I've got coming out this week actually is directed by two people, Battle of the Sexes, by a husband and wife, Jonathan and Valerie. And
Little Miss Sunshine, right? And like a ton of amazing music videos.
Amazing videos, yeah. They were like, well, they're really fascinating people. And I really, really like the film. But it's actually great when you're on a film set, because I think over the latter part of last century, and the director in film has become this kind of godlike figure that is kind of, you know, what I really hate is when you see a film by, and it's the director's name, and they haven't made up the story, they haven't written it. I think that's terrible. Writers have been so sort of derided by Hollywood. So when you have two people directing, and they have to talk to each other, and it immediately kind of opens up to the rest of the set. So I think it makes it a much more egalitarian process by having two directors. It just by nature, there's two people, but also in the way, as I mentioned. And so I really liked that about working with Jennifer. And so when it was just me, I felt a bit lonely. I felt a bit, you know, because I was also playing the lead in the film. It said too much. I kind of took on too much. And also, as I told you, there were some external problems with producers suing each other and everything.
Now, when your first film, the Anniversary Party, was this film that was in the early 2000s, right? Early 2000s. Mm-hmm. And I remember it as, well, one, I loved it, and I thought it was really inspiring as a filmmaker, because it looked like a group of really great actors and friends got together with some DV cameras and made a movie.
Pretty much, yeah.
What was that? Because not that many people were doing that yet. You see that happening all the time in independent film now.
Yeah.
But that was really one of the first, that and like Chuck and Buck of that period were like the first movies to really do that.
This was the first, it was one of the first digital video, films shot on digital video, feature films. And it was actually, it was a studio picture actually. It was made by Fine Line, who are part of New Line, who I don't think it exists anymore. But so it was a, you know, a low budget, but it was the first studio film to ever be shot on digital video. And it was actually, you know, the thing about, if you've been someone like me who started off and everything was done on film, and you've come into this world where everything's done on video now, the biggest difference is everything's faster now. And also there used to be this thing when they would say, we're going for a take, and it would be really like, you know, your buttocks would clench because you had to get it, because it was
burning money.
Literally burning money. And now, you know, on the TV show I'm doing right now, like I'll be doing a take and I'll go, don't stop, let's just go again. And you say, and they come in and they do your thing, but you just carry on, and you would never have been able to do that before. So what it does is it makes you more relaxed, I think, as a performer. And especially on that film, we were able to kind of just keep the cameras rolling, and you can actually get little gems of moments that you might otherwise, people would be perhaps been too guarded to have allowed to happen.
It's such a wonderful film with an incredible cast. For those who haven't seen it, I recommend going and checking it out.
But we're thinking about doing another one.
Really?
I was going to tell you, yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
So you and Jennifer are talking about doing a sequel to this, or just like an entirely different film?
Like a sequel, yeah, because we were talking about it over the last spell, and we're both so busy, but we've been planning to get together and kind of, so we've been thinking about how we think, because it's about a group of friends meeting for a party, an anniversary party, and so I love, like, Gwyneth Paltrow's character in the anniversary party is a little starlet who's coming to play basically a version of Jennifer in a film that I'm going to direct from a novel that I've written, and is she going to be
the head of a lifestyle website in the new movie?
I think she would. Wouldn't it be great? Like, Gwyneth would now be like, you know, this kind of Martha Stewart-esque figure, and like the kids are Kevin Kline and Phoebe Cates' kids. They're now one's in a band, and you know, they're all grown up, and I just love the idea of going back and looking at people and seeing who's with who, and you know, also just even what their faces look like. Do you know what I mean? That's fascinating to me as well.
I have to ask, since you're such close friends with Jennifer, she was here, and I said this to her face, and I wonder if you agree. She got robbed on that Oscar for The Hateful Eight. Wasn't that one of the most incredible performances you've ever seen in a film by any actress ever?
I loved that film, and she was stunning in it. I mean, she's just got balls of steel, that woman. I mean, she just goes for it, and I love that about her. I mean, in all her work, but sometimes in this, it's obviously more extreme. I loved that film, and she was beautiful.
You mentioned a TV show there now, but I want to ask you about a TV show that you were on that, for my money, is one of the best written comedy dramas ever put on television ever, The Good Wife, which you got to do, what, like 121 episodes of? How many?
I managed a lot, yeah, it was 7. I didn't count them, but...
What was it like working with that duo, the creative duo behind it?
Well,
and
great.
Will you be joining The Good Fight at all?
Well, I might do. I mean, my new TV shows I'm filming now, and so I can't. They start soon, but we're talking about maybe Eli might pop back because I finish in December and they go until March, so maybe I'll, make a little because it's kind of funny. Like people talk to me about my daughter. These people on the street go, "I saw your daughter. She's doing very well in that show," and I'm like, that's great. And then it's my daughter from another TV show that I don't do anymore. And although when I went, I went to see her. Her name's Sarah Steele, and she was in this play, The Humans, on Broadway. And I went to see it, and I actually felt nervous. Like I felt like a dad. I was nervous for her, and felt all proud afterwards. It was really funny.
A wonderful performance in the Humans.
Yeah, she's great. I thought I loved that play. Yeah. And she's just great. And actually, when we were shooting the pilot for my show, we shot on one of the sound stages where they were doing The Good Fight. So I saw them all. I saw everybody.
Pop by and say hi.
Pop by and said hello. But yeah, no, The Good Wife was a great experience because of, as you say, it was so well written. I think that was what it was actually funny. People say, "I can't believe it's a network show." And actually what people meant was, "I can't believe there's something that well written on a network." That's really what they meant. But just
22 episodes a year in that.
Well, that level, to keep that standard up, yeah, that's the thing. Because mostly it's 12 or 13. It's a little easier to manage, but yeah.
I remember when she won an Emmy. When she won the Emmy, she said, "And I want to thank my writers who write 22 episodes." Yeah. I was like, "Good for you, lady. Yeah. This is good for you."
No, it's just it's hardcore.
Yeah,
those writers' rooms. I'm doing it again. I in this new show that it's so fascinating. Like you get the drafts of things and they come out really fast. And you've got to really, I used to kind of say, "Oh, I'll read that tomorrow," but now I'm also an executive producer on this show. I'm really got to read this as fast as possible.
What is the show, Alan?
What is it on?
Yeah, what is it on?
CBS, same.
Oh, the show is on CBS. Excuse me. What's the show? I'm so sorry.
It's called Instinct.
Oh, yes.
And I play a sort of, he's a professor, a college professor of behavioral analysis, but he is a former CIA spy. And he then gets lured back into the field because a serial killer is using his book that he wrote about behavioral analysis as clues. And so the NYPD come in. So basically I become a consultant to the NYPD, but I'm a kind of fuddy-duddy. But I used to be a spy. And interestingly, I drive a motorbike. I'm obviously been kick-ass in the past. I headbutt people sometimes. But I'm also gay. I have a husband, and it's the first ever network drama on American television to have a gay character as the leading role.
That's great.
Isn't that awful? I mean, it's great, but
yeah.
It's awful as well.
I love that. My interpretation was like, "That's really great," and you're like, "Isn't that awful that it's the first time?"
But it's great and awful. Yeah, but again, the same thing like with the dog story. I think it's an added thing I'm proud of, and actually, it's actually nice to be an accidental activist in some ways, because this, if this book is going to open kids' minds to the idea that you can have two dads or two mums, that's great. And also the fact that I'm going to be doing a TV show that's not about my being gay. My husband's saying being gay is like third or fourth down the list of main attributes about him. It's a show. People die all the time, and I solve murders, and it's fun and kind of is a great relationship with the cop. But actually, to see a gay couple represented on network TV and not in a cliched or kind of hackneyed and sort of derogatory way is a really amazing thing.
Or like you said, it's just not about them being gay.
They just happen to be gay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you become executive producer of the show?
Oh, because they came to me, early on. I mean, basically, they came early on when it's based on a James Patterson book, and so do you know he's written one in every 17 books that are sold in America? He writes. I know. So the drinks are on him. He's really nice. And so they came to, I got to read the book early on, you see, and they said, would you like to be attached to this? That's what they say. You get attached, like you're sort of a skin tag. And then then I became, it's great because I feel, it's nice to be able to have a voice at a higher level of decision making. Yeah. And it's also like about, my influence thus far is like having more recycling things on the set and having more vegan options on catering.
Let's get some questions from the audience. This man has a microphone right here.
The thing I'm most impressed with your discussion with us, which is not the purpose of my question, is your willingness to use your celebrity status to speak to things political. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
My question is, you've done an awful lot of roles, played an awful lot of characters. Is there one that you liked the most or most appreciative of doing, and one that you wish you had never done? And the other side of the question is, of various roles that you might see or might think about, is, given the freedom to pick and choose, is there one that you would like to do, and one, if offered to you, you'd say, I wouldn't go ever near that?
Gosh, that's a lot of questions.
Do you want to sit here or what?
Yeah, good job.
Of course.
I sort of think, I'm not a yearner. I don't really yearn for things. I think actually yearning for a role or just in general in life, yearning for something makes you sort of skip over the present and maybe not to see the opportunities that are around you. So that part of your question, there's one, I was just talking about this other day. I always wanted to play Jean in Miss Julie. And I never did. I'm too old now. I guess, maybe I'm not. But I would have quite liked to play that. And I did get offered to do it in a film, actually, but I ended up not for a variety of crazy reasons. But so no, there's not really roles that I yearn to play. But in terms of roles that I have done, there's certain ones. It's not really about, because I feel there's my experience of doing a film or whatever, and then there's how it comes out and the world sees it. And often the reaction of when it comes out clouds your memory of what it was like to do it. Because, for example, I've done some films that I had a horrible, horrible time on, and I wish I'd never done it, but I really like the film. And the film is very loved. And then vice versa, I've had a great time making a film, and actually people hated it when it came out. And so that it makes you feel a bit funny. So I actually think for me it's more about, not about a specific role, but about the experience I have when I'm making it. And that's more important to me, So hopefully it's all the time. I'm actually, as I get older as well, I think, why have bad energy? Why have assholes around you? And, that's another thing about being an executive producer, is that you can sort of brush away the assholiness of a little bit of working. And that's really how I feel about that. I think there was one role I did that I wished I'd never done, but I'm so glad I did, is that when I did the version of Macbeth on Broadway a few years ago, and I did it in Scotland first for the National Theatre of Scotland. It was a production of Macbeth where I played all the parts. And it was the most physically and emotionally damaging thing I've ever done. And I was telling someone earlier, there was a bit where you thought I'd drowned. I was in a bath. There was a lot of water and danger. And it really was a terrifying evening for everyone concerned. And there was a bit when you thought I drowned. And in Glasgow, when we did it first, there was like a flat stage, and then the audience went up like that. So the first row of the audience were on the same level as me. And when I was in the drowning bit, and it was a really long time I was underwater, and you could see me on these big monitors, and people would get really uncomfortable, and then people would start to sort of murmur, like, should we do something? Blah, blah. And I could feel, in the bath, I could feel. And actually, I wasn't really drowning, obviously. It was actually the nicest time of the whole evening for me. I was just, but I could feel people's, this energy of people wanting to rush the stage and grab Alan out of danger. And I thought that's an incredible thing. I'm so glad I was a part of that, to make people, do something so, the power of theatre that could make people leave their seats and do something crazy just because they were so in a state. So I'm glad about that, but I wish I'd never done it, because it nearly killed me. Thank you.
Let's get another question. Who has one?
Hi.
Back here.
Hello.
Hi, I'm a huge fan of yours, and
Thank you.
I piggybacking off of what that gentleman said. It's so nice to hear your candor and speak openly about things. It's awesome, and your book sounds so cool. I wish I had kids to read it to right now. But I wanted to ask you, as a fellow actor that would love to act at the level that you've been blessed to, and with talent such as yours, what words of wisdom would you give to someone like me?
No pressure. I sort of feel like people ask me, and especially with young people, when you do sort of talks to actors, I mean, people often say to me, "What's your process?" And I say, "I'm not a cheese. I have no process." And I think actually I would say two things: like, don't overcomplicate it. I think so much of that's wrong with acting, and especially in America, sorry, but I think that's the case, is over-mythologizing acting. It shouldn't be that difficult. It's just pretending to be someone else and meaning it. And obviously there's skills you can learn to, augment that, but at the core of it, it's just like kids playing. And I think just don't overcomplicate it, because it just gets in the way. And the other thing is just to be yourself. Like, your energy and your experience are the most interesting things that you have to offer as an artist. That's what you are as an artist, is interpreting something through the sort of prism of you. So don't try to resist the temptation or the pressure to be pigeonholed into a certain type, because, showbiz does that. And actually just to maintain your authenticity, because I think that's the thing. That's why I think certain people connect with an audience more than others. It's because they are authentic, and we can all tell that.
How do you respond when you're working with another actor who's overcomplicating it? Do you say anything, or do you just kind of like, oh, you take your space, I'll come in when I'm needed?
Well, yeah, I try not. I mean, you can't really say stuff. I mean, you can. I mean, I just don't engage with it. I don't engage with all that dopey stuff, and I just try to be, present, and just because I think the thing with the over mythologizing is actually it's quite selfish, because sometimes, I think the whole. I'll do my potted version of the whole my fury about the method, because what you're basically doing is you're saying, here's the thing I'm acting, here's an emotion I'm acting with this other person. I've got to feel this something. So what I'm going to do is I'm remove myself from this pretend situation, go back into my own life, find a situation in my life that is similar to this, think about that, and then bring it back into this thing that is here. So I'm actually ignoring the person I'm supposed to be doing the thing with. And I think, why can't you just pretend? Do you know what I mean? Try acting.
Pretend to do the thing.
Yeah, just pretend. Like we do, like kids do, And so I feel it's so selfish, and it's counterintuitive, because if you're trying to be honest and have this through line to just be in the moment with someone, you've actually gone away over here and are bringing up something that is not actually relevant to what is going on. I mean, obviously sometimes you think, oh God, you're doing a sad thing. You think, oh, if my dog died, but it's what's the most important thing is just to like play with another person and to react off them, because the goddess Meryl Streep is right, obviously, about everything, but she says that acting is really about listening, and it's true, especially on film. The most I enjoy, especially on my TV show, because you have loads of lines every day, but I just love it when other people are speaking and I can just react to them, and I think often that's the best part of a performance, the most telling.
Well, Alan, I've got to let you go. When is the book on shelves now?
Yes, came out yesterday.
The Adventures of Honey and Leah. It's on shelves now. Battle of the Sexes. When can we see Battle of the Sexes in theaters?
Battle of the Sexes comes out on the 22nd of September in New York and LA, and then the following week it goes everywhere.
And your show Instinct on CBS.
Instinct. Gosh, I'm like the home shopping network here, isn't it? It's on early next year.
Early next year.
Yeah.
So it hasn't aired yet.
Hasn't aired yet. And my bar.
Oh, thank God. I thought I had screwed something up there and that it was on already.
And my bar is available for to be drunk in and danced at.
Alan Cumming, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, Alan.